Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, when you get to a certain stage in covering film festival and the entertainment industry, the fun part can be when you just get to be in awe of something. And if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean that you're in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of entertainment industry professionals. We pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more in a light and in a conversational fashion. And you know, if you like how we do things around here, I'm going to assume that you do, because let's face it, you're listening right now. And if you are, please keep listening and subscribe. Gives you a 5-star rating on your podcast provider of choice. Hit that button. Gives you a thumbs up. We're available pretty much everywhere, places like Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google, and plus we archive every single one of our episodes over at our In the Seats YouTube channel. So you can give us a like and subscribe there as well. We'd absolutely appreciate it. Also, don't hesitate to check us out on social media. We're on the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram, Letterboxd, TikTok. Twitter's called X now. It's still Twitter, but what else? Blue Sky, Threads. We're everywhere. I'm losing track. And In the Seats for all sorts of fun updates. And finally, and I do dare say most importantly, please pay us a visit over at In the Seats. InTheSeats.ca for all the latest and greatest from the world of film, television, basically the movie image at large, because guess what? If we love to watch it and write about it and talk about it, we love it all that much more when you come by and read about it and listen about it. So please do us that ultimate kindness, come on by and pay us a visit. You know, as a critic, I've been trained to roll my eyes when I hear the words magnum opus and refer to in a film and a filmmaker, so it makes me even happier to say that I found one. It just played the Toronto International Film Festival. We're in the thick of it right now. It just had its world premiere, and it's a film called While the Green Grass Grows, a diary in 7 parts, and it is from non-fiction filmmaker Peter Mettler, who you may know from his film Gambling Gods and LSD and many others. This is it's a film diary about his life, but it's really this innovative piece of philosophy in cinema that elevates the form to a really, really different level. And I mean, the guy has been spending his career sort of looking for that next level, that level of wonderment, that level of the sort of in I guess non-quantifiable is probably the best word. And I mean, this film, which was filmed over a period of 3 years, which included both the death of both of his parents, a pandemic, and him getting pretty badly sick, is this intimate transcontinental epic that allows us to really appreciate the human experience. That's probably the best way to put it. Because while it's about him, it's not necessarily about him. It's really got more of a grander, more, I would say, philosophical level. Like, you're not thinking about it as a story of this filmmaker, but you're thinking of it as a story of a human being who is embracing life, death, grief, his own mortality, and just their place in the universe. And that's always an interesting thing to contemplate. It's never easy. But we had the chance to talk about all this stuff with Peter Mettler, who's going to have a retrospective at the Lightbox this coming fall as well. So I'm sure you'll be able to see this and many of his other films playing as well. He is one of our fantastic filmmakers here in Canada, and it was a privilege to get to see this properly on the big screen, because again, it's one of those things that, you know, if someone had told me a 7-hour movie was going to be one of my favorites of the festival, I probably wouldn't have believed them, but it draws you in so quick with its with the theme of While the Green Grass Grows, and just allows you to appreciate the approach of going with the flow and sort of being very attentive to what comes next in life. And it's a gorgeous, gorgeous piece of work. But like I said, keep your eyes open for While the Green Grass Grows, a diary in 7 parts, which, like I said, will undoubtedly be coming back to the Lightbox as a part of the retrospective, but this coming fall. But first, enjoy our talk with the filmmaker Peter Mettler because it's a darn good one. Just first off, I mean, thank you so much for the time, and I mean, just congratulations on the work. I absolutely loved it. I mean, I was one of the brave souls with you at the end of this, but I mean, I absolutely loved it.
Oh, great. Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad you saw it there. It was a nice spacious room
It's
with
such a good room,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Now, I mean,
And
I guess my first question just to kick it off is, I mean, I distinctly remember it was early on in the film. I think it was you talking to your mother about sort of the idea behind while the green grass grows. And she had this great line of like, "Oh, Peter, don't make that. No one's going to give you $1." And I just
yeah,
started rubbing
right.
my hands together and I'm like, okay, let's go. This is my kind of movie. What was sort of the initial impetus for you to sort of explore this idea? Because while you're very much at the center of a lot of what's going on in the film, it's not the Peter Mettler story. It's still very sort of broader and more philosophical.
Yeah. She said a penny, by the way, not
Oh,
a dollar.
I was paraphrasing, but no.
Yeah, it's 100 times even less than what she said. Um, yeah, no, the main impetus, I think, was to work in a way that was unscripted and that was, I mean, I say the line, it's almost like a log line, to let life make this film,
Yeah.
and to keep it chronological and to discover things along the way. So I didn't really know what was going to come at me in that period of time. I did have the theme, which was the grass is always greener on the other side, as a kind of fallback, as a orientation point, as a discussion point. But really, it's a diary. And my interest, like I say, was to catch life and the things that happen in between the narratives.
No, and I mean, I think to me, like the segment at least that stood out to me the most was you on the boat, just having a conversation because it felt so organic and it felt very much. I mean, you could have been having it at a bar over a pint. Like it felt like that kind of naturalistic kind of back and forth. Like for you as you were putting this together, because I mean, obviously, as a filmmaker, you're going to try to steer it a little bit, but at the same time, it goes against sort of the idea that you want to put across and just sort of let sort of the bigger ideas room to breathe. Like, how did you, as the filmmaker, I mean, I guess either steer it or let it go? I'm looking for the right word.
Hmm. A lot of things come to mind from what you just said. I mean, first of all, you're talking about Jeremy, right? When
Yes,
Jeremy
exactly. Yeah,
are on the canoe. And one of the things I loved about that, which was I was aware of, but wasn't exactly like an intentional idea, was that we were drifting.
yeah,
And and the conversation starts with that. We're a couple of drifters. He's a writer, I'm a filmmaker. And I actually love the idea that the wind and the current was framing the shots because the camera was a lot of the time was on a tripod. So we're just drifting down this river, and what you're seeing is actually being guided by the camera. So that became kind of metaphoric for my own process, that I'm letting one thing lead to another. I'm looking for signs of coincidences. I'm looking for associative little knots or bundles all the way through. And those are the things that lead me on. But I'm also ready to change the main theme, as I even say on the boat with
yeah.
Jeremy. I started out with this idea, what the grass is always greener on the other side. What does that mean to people? I thought I'd be asking everybody that. But then because of the climate, this sense of, apocalypse approaching and climate change and everybody freaking out that, the world's going to end, I thought, oh, maybe I should be talking about like, what are you going to do about the end of the world? So I went with the currents of the people I met, um, of the invitations I had. That's how I ended up in Cuba. That's how I ended up in New Mexico. And keeping in mind what had happened before, keeping in mind my interests, my themes, but being very free to go with the flow of what was unfolding.
Do you, as a storyteller, have a sense of, okay, the story's done, or no, I've got to keep going? Like in New Mexico, like could you have stopped in New Mexico, or could you have stopped in Cuba? Like when did you know? Okay, with this particular story that I want to tell, this is it. This is sort of the demarcation line. Because I
Well,
mean,
that,
this the idea of While the Green Grass Grows is something like, I mean, you may have parts seven, eight, and nine in production already. I don't know. You know what I mean?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's the nature of a diary. It doesn't really end until you stop writing,
Right.
until you stop filming. And I very much could have kept going. But there's like a lot of practical considerations, obviously. You're amassing material, you have to process that material, you have to edit it. So Jordan, Kawhi, and myself, we were editing and I was shooting simultaneously. And then my parents died. The idea of mortality started to become front and center. I myself
Mm.
ended up in a hospital, and that seemed like a good parenthesis, to say, okay, well, here's a shape. It's completely not premeditated. It's what happened. And this is what we extracted out of the edit to present as what we call a story. And there was this beautiful accident, coincidence, whatever you want to call it, with Peter Brooker, the psychologist who I'm talking to at the end, who's talking all about coincidences and making meaning out of randomness. And that also seemed like a nice sort of summary point, if you will, of the things that had happened up until
Totally,
then.
yeah. Was there were there any voices, even sort of externally or even internally with you, to be like, okay, my parents just died, maybe I shut the camera off, or no, I'm in the hospital, this is kind of serious, maybe I shut the camera off, or was the mindset for you to always be sort of documenting as you went along this journey?
I questioned, especially the hospital part with my father. Um, I questioned it. It's also a taboo. You don't do that. But at the same time, there's a number of things happening. For me, it was a way to process it. The whole film ended up being a process of grieving, of dealing with that. And I was very thankful that I had an artistic practice to actually process all this with. And I felt it, yeah, it's a valuable part of life. Um, I saw a pregnant woman come in one day and thought, oh, that's something we celebrate, and that's the other end of this journey we're on. And so why not acknowledge and celebrate this passing, especially because he lived to a ripe old age, and as you could see earlier in the film, he was, in a good spirit,
Mm.
and this was um, this was his transition. So it tried to make it a positive experience for
Oh,
him in
100%, yeah.
the way I could, and also for the audience. Yeah.
Speaking of which, I mean, you've done something really rare here because I love the fact that you broke it up, but at the same time, it does feel like one of those rare instances where it works as one piece or it works as multiple pieces. Like, was that always sort of on the mind for you, or is it just a question of while you're in the edit going, okay, this is going to be way too much. We have to at least give it some kind of chaptering to sort of give people a break, at least a mental one.
I think we figured a lot out about the structure during the editing because it's what life gave.
Right.
Um, and I'm glad you say that. I mean, I do feel the whole thing is any film has a number of scenes in it, and they're usually built to tell a story or to create a narrative. And here there's a number of scenes, but there's also a number of uh, episodes that function like scenes, but they're their own little packages because one thing transpired completely in Cuba, another transpired totally with my parents, another going in a drive across America to Truth or Consequences. Like they're very different things, but they're bound together by a timeline, just a chronological
Mm.
timeline, and by a sensibility, which is me.
How do you, and I mean, I'm looking for the right way to word this, because on one end, you're the documentarian, you're the filmmaker, you're the storyteller, but at the same time, you are at least indirectly the subject as well. How do you kind of draw the line between sort of being in your film versus sort of steering your film as you're sort of going through all these experiences in these chapters.
Yeah, I don't know if you know my other films, but I definitely am more a subject in this film than I've ever
Mm.
been. And I used to think, like for example, Gambling Gods and LSD, people sometimes would say, why didn't you put yourself in the film anymore? Like, why aren't you there? And my answer was, I'm there in every frame because I'm holding the camera.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you're seeing my reactions, you're seeing my gestures, you hear me speak once in a while. It is very personal from an inside perspective. But this one, I became more present, I guess. You hear me more, you see me on camera more, and then you share my journey and the reflections of my journey. You see how my parents react to me or other people react to me, and you see me, go through that struggle when I had to go to the hospital at the end. So how do I deal with it? Yeah, I don't know. I just do.
That's a fair answer, though,
I just did it. I don't know.
because it's one of those things, especially when it comes to documentary. And I mean, I think this is very true of your film, because had you tried to sort of make this more, I guess I want to say narrative, there would have had to be sort of highs and lows and arcs and this and that and sort of beats that you'd have to hit. When it comes to sort of doing it in more of a documentary style, there isn't really any rules. You can kind of do what you want. Like for you as a filmmaker, what is it about the documentary form that seems to be more freeing than, say, something a bit more conventional?
Well, the early films I made, some of them were fiction, where
Mm,
they
yeah.
had they had actors and scripts, and we worked with crews and unions and the whole nine yards. And although I really appreciate that form of working, I'm not criticizing that at all. Um, I found what I was interested in was a discovery process that the real world was giving me back. Plus, I like discovering things. So if you're trying to raise money for a film, and you do that with a fiction, and you say, "Well, this scene is, X, and I don't know how I'm going to shoot it yet, and who's going to be in it," and that you can't fund that. And with documentary, at least you can take a subject, like say the Northern Lights, for a picture of light. And it's very concrete. Okay, we're going to make a film about the Northern Lights and going to explore this and that. But at the same time, you can be very free at exploring all the kind of tentacles that come out from that subject and make something that's more intricate and nuanced and be open to surprises. So documentary lets you work in a more exploratory and improvisational way.
Now, I mean, I've got to ask, how many hours of footage did you have for this film? Like, is there a 12-hour cut of While the Green Grass Grows somewhere, or did it sort of par down to its sort of natural shape as it is now?
I'd say it's pretty much its natural shape. There's nothing major left out. I mean, there's scenes and little trips or things like that. Maybe, yeah, there are a few things that are left out. Um, but the basic arc of what really happened is there. And I don't think I really should check my editing system for the total number of hours. I don't know what it is. Um, I would guess though, in the realm of 100 hours, 120 hours of total material.
Wow. Now, I mean, it was announced at the Big TIFF press conference, but I mean, obviously, you're having your premiere of this here at the festival, but then after the festival, your film's going to be in a retrospective. And I mean, I can imagine, especially as an artist and a filmmaker, that's not something you ever sort of plan on happening, but it's always got probably a very nice to get the call. Can you talk me through sort of that, so those initial moments of like, wow, you want to do one with me? Really? I can imagine you had that look over your shoulder moment.
Well, I have had retrospectives in other countries, and had one at TIFF in 2006, I think it
Oh,
was.
really? Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, as they say, it's not my first rodeo, but in this case, I was especially happy because I feel Like I've drifted a little bit away from my home, which is Toronto.
Mm,
I'm a dual citizen with Switzerland, and I've been showing stuff a lot in Europe and working there as well as Canada. And I'd actually had a couple of films that didn't show in TIFF at the festival. So it was a bit like a homecoming to get that, to get both, to get, the world premiere
for sure.
of this and followed directly um, by the retrospective, including a book that Jose Teodoro was putting out. And it was actually Jose who, I believe, began the whole retrospective idea. So yeah, it's a culmination point, and it's nice to be back in Toronto where I've lived my life.
Well, I didn't know that. So props to Jose for that, friend of the show, but for sure. No, I mean, just to put a bow on it, I don't want to keep you too much longer. Obviously, world premiere, and I mean, I don't know if you've got other sort of festivals or things planned, but how are you anticipating, or at least hoping, reactions to the film are? Because I mean, obviously, as I've been talking to you about this felt very uh not only philosophical but almost metaphysical in a way. Because I mean, there were parts of the film where I could actively feel my blood pressure going down. It
Oh,
was one
nice.
of those things where I'm watching it and it's just I felt so immersed in sort of this idea, and I felt like it wash over me. And it was one of those things where, from a cinematic experience, we don't necessarily get that every day.
No. What I told you in the beginning, this idea of letting life make the film and going out there, it was a thing I've wanted to do for a long time, and it's an experiment. I don't know what I'm going to get, and I wanted to give into that kind of process as being the main guiding light, as opposed to the different forms or structures you're supposed to fit into all the time in order to
Right,
make film. Like I've had a life of being turned down because my ideas are too outside of the boundaries of what is normal. So this was a film where I had the opportunity and also had to take the position of working with very little money and very little help to get it made and to see what happens. And now we're at that threshold of the premiere to really see what happens. We don't even know yet what is the best way to watch it. We're showing it in two blocks over 2 days and hope that people will see both blocks because that's the whole film. So it's a discovery process all along the way for everybody who worked on it because it's an unusual process. And I meant to say too that I don't know if you noticed, but the film begins with this quotation of Thich Nhat Hanh saying like,
right.
before that day you were born, where were you? And then the film ends. Well, I shouldn't say how it ends, but the funny thing is, TIFF programmed it on my birthday. September 7th is actually my birthday.
Well, I love it. That's a fantastic that is a fantastic birthday present to you. And I mean, I just, as a not only a film fan, but sort of someone who's always appreciated the art of the moving image, thank you for the experiment, because it would have been so easy to say, I'm going to do this experiment, and then halfway through going, this is not working, fuck it, I'm going to drop it and move on. But you push through, and you've made something that is incredibly unique. And I can't wait for cinema fans to see it, no matter how many end up, committing to the whole thing. But I mean, it's such an experience, and I'm so glad that you did it. And just again, thank you for the work, and thank you so much for the time today, man. I really do appreciate it.
I thank you too. That's very nice to hear that. Thank you.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.